I spent months planning my dream wedding. Then my fiancé's best friend humiliated me in front of everyone. When I finally banned him, he went online to trash me. His life fell apart after everyone took my side. Weeks later, he showed up crying, begging for forgiveness. They say your wedding day should be the happiest day of your life. But no one warns you what happens when the person standing beside your fiancé is the one tearing you apart from the inside. This has been weighing heavy on my heart for months now, and even though life has moved forward, my name is Isolde Vesper, and I am 29 years old. I have been with my fiancé Calder Knox for 4 beautiful years. Calder is the kind of man you dream about. Patient, thoughtful, fiercely loyal. We met in the most unexpected way, at a cozy bookstore downtown during a rainy afternoon. I was thumbing through an old poetry collection, and he was searching for a gift for his sister. Our hands brushed over the same volume, and somehow that moment unraveled into hours of conversation about everything from literature to late-night diner food. Calder had a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room, like your words mattered more than anything else. He proposed last fall during a weekend trip to a cabin in Vermont. It was one of those chilly, golden afternoons where everything felt suspended in time. The leaves were fiery shades of amber and crimson, the air smelled like wood smoke and pine, and there was this incredible stillness all around us. Calder led me to the dock overlooking a glassy lake and with shaking hands, pulled out a simple, beautiful ring. I said yes without a second thought, tears slipping down my cheeks as the last rays of the sun dipped below the mountain. Our wedding is set for later this year. Planning has been a mix of chaotic and magical, a whirlwind of picking flowers, debating playlists, and taste-testing cakes. Sometimes we would stay up way too late talking about our future, making promises in between fits of laughter. Honestly, if it weren't for one person, everything would have felt like a fairy tale. That one person is Blaze Reddick, Calder's best friend since they were teenagers. Blaze is complicated. On the surface, he comes off as charming in the life of any party. But dig a little deeper and you would find the cracks. He is the kind of guy who never quite grew past his high school glory days. You know the type. Endless jokes that land like slaps, backhanded compliments that sting more than they soothe. Calder always brushed it off, telling me Blaze was just being goofy, just immature. So for Calder's sake I bit my tongue more times than I can count. From the very beginning, Blaze had a way of making me feel like an outsider. I remember the first time Calder introduced me to him at a casual get-together. Blaze shook my hand with a smirk and said, "Wow, you are way out of Calder's league. Did he bribe you?" Everyone laughed, including Calder, but I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment. Over time, Blaze's comments became a running theme. When I got a promotion at work, he joked that it must have been because of favoritism. When I shared that I loved to write, he quipped that blogging was just glorified diary keeping. Even at simple events like game nights or birthday parties, he found ways to undercut me in small, snide ways that often went unnoticed by everyone else. Still, I tried. I convinced myself that I was overthinking, that I needed to be more laid back. After all, he was Calder's best friend, practically his brother. I didn't want to be the reason for any tension. Nova Wren, Blaze's longtime girlfriend, was a quiet, steady presence. She was the kind of woman who never sought the spotlight, but somehow still carried herself with an effortless grace. Whenever we were in the same room, I noticed how she observed more than she spoke, her eyes catching details others missed. Over the years I had come to respect her resilience, though sometimes I wondered how she managed to endure Blaze's endless antics. There was a sadness tucked behind her polite smiles, a weight she carried so subtly that most people overlooked it. But I saw it, and in that sadness, I recognized a silent kinship. The incident that shattered everything happened during my birthday dinner 2 months ago. Calder had organized a small, intimate evening at a lovely little restaurant downtown. Family and close friends gathered around a long candle-lit table, laughter bouncing off the walls, warmth enveloping the room. The night had been almost perfect. The food was incredible, the wine flowed easily, and the feeling of being surrounded by people who cared about me warmed my heart in ways I hadn't expected. As the night wore on, The conversation shifted toward the wedding. Someone asked about our vows, and Calder, ever the enthusiastic storyteller, shared that we were writing our own. I laughed nervously, admitting that I was excited but also a little terrified of getting emotional in front of everyone. Then, Blaze struck. Loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear, he blurted out, "Just don't cry halfway through your vows like you did during your breakup. Remember that?" The laughter around the table died instantly. It felt like someone had dropped a glass, and the shards were cutting through the air. My chest tightened so fast it physically hurt. My cheeks burned with a shame so raw that it made my vision blur. I caught a glimpse of my father's face, Theron Blythe, tightening with anger, his hands clenching into fists on the tablecloth. In that moment it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My mind reeled back to that dark time, the abusive relationship, the nights spent crying myself to sleep, the feeling of being completely broken, and now, here it was, dragged into the open like some grotesque party trick for Blaze's amusement. But somehow, I managed to laugh it off in the moment. I smiled, even though it felt like my face might crack from the effort. I nodded, even though my stomach was twisted into painful knots. I even clinked my glass against Calder's with a hand that was trembling so badly I almost spilled my drink. Anything to not cause a scene. Anything to not ruin the night for everyone else. Inside, though, I was crumbling. 1,000 sharp memories and emotions swirled inside me, each one cutting deeper than the last. Humiliation, anger, sadness, betrayal, all tangled together into a tight, suffocating knot that I could not untangle. Later that night, I pulled Calder aside, my hands still trembling slightly from the effort of keeping it together all evening. We stood outside the restaurant, under the cold, flickering streetlights, the world quiet except for the low hum of distant traffic.
"How could he say that?"
I asked, my voice cracking despite my best efforts. How could he humiliate me like that, knowing everything I went through, knowing my dad was right there? Calder reached for my hand, his brow furrowed in concern. "Babe, you know Blaze. He doesn't think. He just says stupid stuff sometimes." I pulled my hand away gently, needing space. "No, Calder, this isn't just stupid stuff. This was cruel. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. He knew exactly what he was doing. And you just sat there. You laughed." He opened his mouth, then closed it, his expression pained. "I didn't mean to make you feel like you were alone in that. I guess I just froze." Tears welled up in my eyes, and I hated how vulnerable I felt. I have been swallowing my feelings for years to keep the peace with him. Every little jab, every cutting joke, I kept quiet for you. Because I love you. But tonight felt like a slap in the face. Calder stepped closer, wrapping his arms around me in a firm embrace. I stiffened at first, but eventually let myself sink into him, the tears slipping freely now. "I'm sorry, Isolde," he whispered into my hair. "I'm so sorry. I didn't see it the way you did. But I see it now. I promise you, you come first. Always." I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. And in that moment, wrapped in Calder's arms under the quiet night sky, I decided to hold on to hope a little longer. The tipping point came at our engagement party a few weeks later. It was supposed to be a celebration, a joyful gathering with champagne toasts, soft music, and the people we loved most. Everything was going beautifully, until Blaze, already several drinks deep, decided to give an impromptu speech. He clinked his glass loudly, drawing everyone's attention. With a sloppy grin, he began talking about Calder's legendary bad taste in women during their college days, laughing about old flings, and throwing not-so-subtle jabs at me by comparison. Then he raised his glass toward me and slurred, "At least this one's pretty enough to distract from her baggage, right?" Gasps rippled through the room. I felt Calder's hand tighten around mine, but the damage was already done. I could see my mother's face pale, my father rising from his seat like he was about to intervene. I heard Nova hiss something under her breath, her face flushed with anger. Without thinking, I stood up, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Blaze," I said, my voice clear but trembling, "you need to leave. Now." He blinked at me, confused, and then gave a scoffing laugh. Oh, come on. Are we really doing this? It was a joke. You're being way too sensitive, as usual. I'm serious, I said, my voice firmer. Get out. Blaze looked around the room for support, but found none. Not Calder. Not our families. Not even Nova, who was sitting stiffly, her arms crossed tight against her chest. You're all seriously okay with this, he spat, his voice rising. Just because Princess here can't take a joke? Calder stepped beside me, his face stone cold. You heard her. Leave, now. Blaze staggered back, muttering curses under his breath, and then stumbled out the door, the heavy thud of it closing behind him leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The room sat in heavy, stunned quiet for a long moment, before someone quietly turned the music back on. Conversations picked up in hushed tones, but the mood had irrevocably shifted. That was the moment Calder realized, fully and without denial, that Blaze had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. After a few days of agonizing over it, I sat Calder down again. This time, it was different. The weight of everything Blaze had said and done hung heavily between us, and I could feel the tremor in my own voice as I spoke. I cannot have him there, Calder, I said, my hands clasped tightly together in my lap. Not at the ceremony, not at the rehearsal dinner, not even lurking in the back. If he cannot respect me in everyday life, he does not get to celebrate the most sacred day of my life. Calder's jaw tightened. He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, staring at the floor like the answers might be hidden in the carpet fibers. You are asking me to cut out someone who has been like a brother to me for 15 years, he said quietly, almost to himself. I swallowed the lump in my throat. No, I replied, voice steadier than I felt. I am not asking you to cut out a brother. I am asking you to protect your future wife from a man who has repeatedly humiliated her. He rubbed a hand over his face, as if trying to wipe away the conflict etched there. Maybe you are overreacting, he muttered, almost too softly for me to hear. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. For a split second, I considered backing down, just to make the tension go away. But then the memory of Blaze's words, the shame that had crawled up my spine at the dinner, came flooding back. The way my father's proud face had crumbled in pain and anger. I sat up straighter. I have tolerated a lot, Calder. I swallowed every backhanded comment, every dig, every casual cruelty he threw at me. For you, because I love you. But if you expect me to smile through my wedding day while feeling like a joke to him and everyone else, then maybe you are not seeing me clearly. Calder finally lifted his eyes to meet mine, and in them, I saw the struggle, but also something else, something softer. Recognition, understanding. 2 days later, Blaze texted me. It was a hollow apology wrapped in sarcasm. Sorry if you were sensitive about the joke the other night, lol. I showed it to Calder without a word. He took the phone, stared at the screen, and let out a long, weary sigh. That's just how he talks, he said, almost out of habit. I turned to him, calm but unyielding. Then maybe he can talk like that from his home, I said, each word deliberate. Because he is not coming to our wedding. For a long moment, Calder said nothing. The silence between us stretched tight. Then something in his posture changed, a loosening, a letting go. Okay, he said finally, voice low but sure. If it matters this much to you, Blaze won't be there. And in that moment, I felt something shift, not just in Calder, but in us. A realignment. A silent promise that from now on, we would be choosing each other. Even when it was hard, even when it hurt. When Calder told Blaze, there was, predictably, an explosion. Blaze called me controlling, accused me of trying to isolate Calder, and went on a tirade so intense that Calder had to hold the phone away from his ear. He ranted about how unfair it was, how I was ruining their brotherhood, and manipulating Calder into turning against him. Every word was a dagger, not because they were true, but because they revealed the ugly, entitled anger festering inside him. But then, something unexpected happened. Nova Wren reached out to me. It was late at night when her message came through, a simple ding that lit up my screen in the darkness. My heart pounded as I opened it, half expecting more backlash. Instead, I found a message so raw and sincere, it made my breath catch in my throat. "I'm honestly glad he's not going," she wrote. "He's been a nightmare about your wedding, ever since you got engaged. He mocked everything. Your dress, your venue, even your vows. I wanted to say something so many times, but I didn't know how without making it worse for you. I'm sorry for not standing up sooner. You didn't deserve any of it." Reading those words, something inside me cracked open. I sat there in bed, clutching my phone, tears streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming rush of validation. For so long, I had been gaslit into believing that Blaze's behavior was just my imagination, that I was too sensitive, too uptight, too unforgiving. But I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. Hearing it from Nova, someone who had lived in the shadows of Blaze's cruelty for just as long, broke the dam inside me. I realized then that Blaze's behavior wasn't just a me problem, it was a him problem, a rotting wound he inflicted on everyone around him. And all of us, for different reasons, had been tiptoeing on eggshells, praying he wouldn't explode, praying we wouldn't be his next target. But no more. Not for me. Not ever again. The real climax, though, happened a few weeks later. After Calder told Blaze he was no longer welcome at our wedding, Blaze didn't just lash out privately, he took his anger to social media, posting long, rambling rants about fake friends and manipulative women ruining real friendships. It was a mess, bitter, embarrassing, and so public it almost felt surreal. He whined about being cast aside after 15 years of loyalty, painting himself as the ultimate victim. At first, I braced myself for backlash. I expected people to rally behind him, to call me controlling or overdramatic. But the opposite happened. One by one, people began to comment. Not defending him but agreeing with our decision. Some simply posted short, cutting responses, like "not surprised" or "we all saw this coming." Others shared their own experiences of Blaze's rudeness and mean-spirited jokes, stories that mirrored my own encounters with him. Even mutual friends, the ones I thought would stay neutral at best, chimed in saying things like, "Honestly, you needed this wake-up call, man, and you've been pushing people away for years." It wasn't a mob. It was something quieter, heavier. A collective sigh of relief that someone had finally stood up and said, "Enough." And then there was Nova. She didn't comment publicly, but I later learned that she had sent him a private message, not to console him, but to end their relationship formally. She told him she was tired of always being the one smoothing things over, of apologizing on his behalf, of swallowing her hurt for the sake of keeping the peace. She was done. That's when Blaze truly unraveled. Losing Calder's friendship, losing Nova, losing the illusion that he was the lovable clown everyone adored, it shattered whatever pride he had left. And so, at a family brunch, one of those casual, sun-drenched Sunday affairs, Blaze showed up uninvited. The day had started beautifully. My parents had set up long tables under the oak trees, with light linen cloths fluttering in the soft breeze. Platters of fruit, pastries, and quiches were laid out, and the air was filled with the scent of fresh coffee and blooming jasmine. Kids chased each other across the lawn, adults clinked mimosas, and the whole world seemed dipped in gold. It was supposed to be a day of easy smiles and light-hearted conversations, a break from all the recent stress. And for a while it was, until Blaze appeared. The shift was immediate. The easy laughter faltered. Conversations dropped to hushed murmurs. I watched him linger awkwardly near the edge of the gathering, his usual swagger gone, replaced by a restless, almost desperate energy. His clothes were rumpled, his hair unkempt. He looked like a man on the brink. I exchanged a look with Calder, who stiffened but nodded for me to handle it, how I needed. I stood up and walked toward Blaze, feeling the weight of 100 curious eyes following me. He pulled me aside, his hands trembling slightly. "I sold, please. I screwed up. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just jealous. Okay?" The confession hit me harder than I expected. Jealousy. Of Calder. Of our relationship. Blaze admitted he had been miserable for years, watching his friends build lives while he stayed stuck in place. The jokes, the jabs, the cruelty, they were all ugly symptoms of his own unhappiness. He spoke quickly, words tumbling over themselves, as if trying to pour out years of resentment and regret all at once. He told me about how it stung to see everyone moving forward while he felt frozen in place. About how he tried to laugh it off, to make himself feel bigger by making others feel smaller. He admitted he lost Nova because he could not change, could not stop pushing people away even when he desperately wanted them to stay. He asked me to forgive him. For a long moment, I just stared at him, this boy, masquerading as a man, who had caused so much unnecessary pain. I saw not the arrogant, careless Blaze who had taunted me for years, but a broken reflection of him, someone crumbling under the weight of his own choices. I forgive you, I said quietly. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending none of it happened. And it doesn't mean you get to be part of our lives. Blaze nodded, tears brimming in his eyes. His shoulders sagged as if the last of his strength had finally given out. Then he turned and walked away, weaving through the tables and out of the sunlight, leaving behind only a hollow emptiness where his chaos used to be. And somehow, the air felt lighter. In the months that followed, Calder and I grew stronger. We talked more openly, we stood up for each other in ways we hadn't before. Our wedding, when it finally came, was perfect, not because it was extravagant or flawless, but because it was filled only with people who loved and respected us, wholeheartedly. Nova came to the wedding, radiant and free. She hugged me tightly and whispered, "Thank you for showing me it was okay to walk away." As for Blaze, I hear he's doing some work on himself. Maybe he will be better someday. Maybe not. But that is no longer my burden to carry. I guess what I am trying to say is, sometimes protecting your peace means making hard, uncomfortable choices. Sometimes it means being the bad guy in someone else's story so you can be the hero in your own. And you know what? I would make the same choice 1,000